Republican leaders and lawmakers have parental rights on their agenda this session. They want to give parents more say in their children's education, whether it be the school they attend or the books they read or what is taught in the classroom. Here to talk about this is Katie Naranjo, chair of the Travis County Democratic Party, and political consultant Ashley Brasher. Thank you both for being here. Ashley, beginning with you, in his inaugural speech, Governor Abbott said schools should be for education, not indoctrination. What is he talking about?
I think a lot of voters in Texas are really disheartened at the fact that they're being pushed out of their kids' lives in the classroom, and there are things being taught that they're not comfortable with. We need to get back to the basics of reaching the levels we should be at for math and science and reading, and maybe not worried about some of the other things that are being discussed in classrooms that should be left up to parents.
Katie, do you agree with the governor when he talks about this indoctrination in the public schools?
I think the only one who's interested in indoctrination is the far right group that he's trying to represent here. The reality is that when you talk about math, sciences, and liberal arts, these are all in the curriculum. We have people that we elect to office to represent these issues. They're called school boards or the State Board of Education when it comes to curriculum. So I'm not sure why the governor is needing to exert this additional authoritarian perspective to try to take back a classroom. No one's taking it from him. The voters vote on those locally elected positions. So it seems a bit of a farce to me.
Ashley, will this parental rights movement or idea, will those sort of bills actually make it through the legislature and make it to the governor's desk?
I think it's about time to address some of the things that Katie was talking about. We don't elect our teachers, and there is an issue there. Things are being said in the classroom that aren't teachers' business to be teaching these kids. They need to be focusing on math, science, and reading. And part of the issue is Texas is not reaching the levels it should be at. If you look at the 2022 STAR testing, we're not where we should be. And that is an issue for in the classroom. And like I said, we're not voting on what teachers are teaching. And I think we need to start addressing that they need to do their job and focus on that and bring their personal beliefs to their friend groups, not the classroom.
Katie, how would you respond to that?
It's ironic to me that the Republicans are for little government, except for when it comes to exerting parental, perspectives and opinions. It's to have an entire agency just focus. Right, but that's why there's the school board. That's what I'm saying. It's like you elect the school board oversees the operations and the superintendent, and they have the State Board of Education that then oversees curriculum for the state of Texas. So that's where the issue should be taken care of by the voters versus a far right, really predominantly all Christian religion group that is trying to be a special interest in the legislature. Like that to me is circumventing the will of the voters who elect their school boards.
Is it a local issue, Ashley?
I think the issue is we don't have enough quality teachers. Teachers are leaving because they're so uncomfortable with some of the things that are being taught. I have friends that are teachers locally in Central Texas that are leaving and then homeschooling their own kids.
What's being taught? What are the issues being taught? Yeah, what's the concern that's being taught in the classroom?
So there's an issue with some of the religious things being discussed that are none of the teachers' business. There's an issue with discussing gender and sexuality and things of that nature that these teachers have no right to be talking to kids about. They need to be talking to their parents. That is so inappropriate and perverse for a teacher to talk about those things with a child at a young age, and it's happening.
Okay, Katie, last word here. We got to wrap it up.
Sounds like a local issue that parents should take to their principals, to their school boards, to advocate there. These one-off issues and frankly, lack of examples that Ashley has to then create an entire group of government.
Because you don't like the examples that I put forth.
Opinion. No, you said you had no example. You just talked about religious issues in a vague, context. And to create an entire branch of government for that seems like a huge
I don't want
overreach.
my 5-year-old being asked if he wants to be a girl or a boy today. It's inappropriate, and it's happening in Texas, and we're going to put a stop to it.
I'm getting the heart out here, so we're going to have to wrap this up there. Katie, Ashley, thank you both very much.
Thank you.